discovered so far is that Jesus was incarnated into the Jewish lineage in order to save them from the deception. They were being deceived by Yahovah, who claimed that they, and we've proven that it's more than one, that they claimed they were the one and true God, but they are the deceiver. They deceived the Jews, and that was why Jesus incarnated into the Jewish lineage, was to save them from that deception. And he said to Yahovah, "Get behind me, Satanas," or Satan. So that's what it appears to be when you follow the logic. So the good news, let's get into the good news in this last part, which is that Yahovah is only on the earth, only has rulership over the humans for 6,000 years. And guess what? Yahovah's time is up. That's the good news. So we know that Yahovah established the Garden of Eden from Genesis 2:8, which was Sumer, which turned into Babylon, which is now the modern day Iraq. So we know that this ended up being Babylon, and we know that Babylon is the head of gold, Daniel 2:38. It's the lion with wings. It's the very foundation of the beast system. These are the four beasts from Daniel, from the book of Daniel. So we know that Babylon is the first beast and the foundation of all of these other beasts that go all the way up until the end for 6,000 years. So the fact that we know that Yahovah established Eden, which was in that area of the world, that's confirmation for us that Yahovah established the beast system on the planet right now. In Genesis 6:2, it says, and you can verify this, again, the link is below this video that goes to the concordance that shows all the original definitions for these words. It says, "And the Yahovah said, my Ruach," and Ruach means, it can mean spirit, but it also means vain, empty thing, temper, anger, disposition, impulse, desire, sorrow, trouble. And it also means warlike energy and executive and administrative power. You can go verify that right now if you want. And the Yahovah said, my warlike energy and executive and administrative power shall not always dean. And dean means judge, plead, govern, contend, quarrel. So Yahovah said, my warlike energy and executive and administrative power shall not always govern mankind. He indeed is Shagog, which means go astray, erred, sinned, deceived. So the Yahovah said, my warlike energy and executive and administrative power shall not always govern mankind. He is deceived. Yet his days shall be 120 years. Okay. Leviticus 25 tells us that the 50th year should be proclaimed the Jubilee. And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. So, if every 50th year is a jubilee, how many years would be 50, would be 120? Let me say that again. If every 50th year is a jubilee, when every man is returned unto his possession, and remember, the Elohim created the whole earth. Yahavah only created Babylon and all the systems, the Babylon system on the planet. But Elohim actually created the whole planet and made it habitable and put the moon exactly between the earth and the sun in such a way that it would appear to be the exact same size when it traveled between the earth and the sun. No question about it. That's the Elohim. But the Yahavah just created Eden, which was Sumeria, Babylon. So, if we're looking at jubilees, we're talking about the restoration of all planet Earth back to the Elohim. So, if every 50th year is the jubilee, then how many years would 120 jubilees be? So 120 times 50 is 6,000 years. So Yahavah is actually saying to humans, he's saying, my warlike energy and executive and administrative power will not always govern mankind. He is deceived, but his days will be 6,000 years. And you might want to go look up this last part to see what that translates to. He's deceived, but only for 6,000 years. Well, guess what? We know when Sumeria was cultivated, because there have been archaeologists that have been studying that for, hundreds of years? They agree that it was sometime between 4,500 BC and 4,000 BC that Sumeria was cultivated. So 6,000 years later would be basically now. If it was 4,000 BC, plus 2,000, I'm sorry, whatever, you know what I'm saying, 4,000 plus 2,000 is 6,000. So 4,000 BC is negative, 2000 AD is positive. So we're in the time frame right now, literally right now we're in the time frame for the warlike energy and executive and administrative power to be gone. We're in the time period right now. And remember, the Elohim had said that the 7,000th year is holy. In Genesis 2. In Genesis 2. And in 2 Peter 3:8, it says, Beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. That doesn't mean that every single time you see the word day, it means 1,000 years. It doesn't mean that, because we also know that a day is a year. We find that in other scriptures. But it's saying that a day can mean 1,000 years in scripture. So if Genesis 1, when it says that the Elohim made the earth in 6 days and rested on the seventh, And we find the rested on the seventh day all throughout Scripture. So if that's code for the 7,000th year, then that would be further confirmation that after the 6,000 years are over, Elohim returns. And that's what we hear again and again and again. So, for the people who think that the Anunnaki is returning to Earth, they need to understand that they're wrong. The Anunnaki is probably also the Illuminati, and they're already here, and they've been here for 6,000 years. Because this Yahweh, what Yahweh did in the Hebrew text, parallels what the Anunnaki did in the Sumerian text. The Sumerian stories also have a Genesis story, and it's called the Eridu Genesis. And it talks about a god Enki and all these different gods, and they according to Zecharia Sitchin and his books, The 12th Planet and all of that, he attempted to translate the Sumerian text, and he says that the Anunnaki turned humans into slaves. Well, from reading the Bible, we can now see that this perfectly matches what the Yahweh did. And it's telling us that in the time of the 7,000th year, the Elohim will return, the ones who actually created the whole planet. They're not the ones that created the Babylonian system. So the Elohim are returning. The good guys are returning, not the bad guys. The bad guys are already here. And anybody who really thinks about it would see that. When you look back on our history, it's clear that the bad guys are already here. As scary as that may sound, it's the truth. We live in the system right now that the bad guys created. So this is really encouraging. The word Noah actually means leave, depart from. So in Genesis 6:8 it says, but leave, depart from. Matzah, which means attain, acquire. Chen, which means grace, acceptance. In the ayin, which means I, or displeased conceit of the Yahweh. So, but leave, depart from, attain grace, acceptance, have mercy on. In the displeasure of the Yahweh. But leave and attain grace and acceptance by the Elohim in the displeasure of the Yahweh. And what does it say in every other scripture? What does it say in Revelation 12? It says that when the woman departs, and the woman represents the bride of Christ, which represents those who are raptured, when the departure happens, the accuser, the slanderer, becomes wroth with anger and goes after those who are left behind, goes after the remnant. And you can look it up in the concordance. That word remnant means left behind. So not only are we in the time period for the end, but we're in the time period where we're going to be hanging with the Elohim for a little while. It's all ending really good. Jesus is the one coming back, not the Anunnaki, not the bad guys. The bad guys aren't the ones who are returning. Jesus is the one who is returning to restore the earth back to its paradise. So that's what's coming. All right, I'll let you guys go. Thanks for watching. Bye.